Now you see it, and now you don't. I wonder where it went. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and a happy long weekend, the last long weekend of the summer, officially, Labor Day weekend. And I know everybody in Canada has it, and I think everybody in the States has it. So North America, we're having Labor Day weekend. And today's Labor Day Monday, which means a lot of things here in Canada are closed, a statutory holiday. I don't know if it's the same in the States or not, but anyways, does it matter? I guess not. So let's take a look at what I have been working on. So these 8 blocks, two of 4 designs in here are Stephanie Stitch's pattern. Cozy Star Quilt. I had to think about what it is. She's doing it as a sew along. And I don't know if she's still, well, the pattern is still available on her Etsy store. If you like it, you can get it. Her pattern's always great. You've heard me say that before. And it's coming out week by week. And I have the next 2 block designs all cut, ready to sew up this week. So it's coming along nicely. And I think it's going to be a really nice quilt. I've already purchased my backing fabric for this. I saw something that I think will be perfect for it online, so hopefully it'll arrive sometime this week, although this quilt in itself will not be done this week, so I've got lots of time. And yeah, and I'm enjoying working on this project. So that's one thing I've been up to. And of course, I had a pop-up sew day on Saturday, and during it I decided to do this creation, and this is a pillow. I needed some new pillow slips or covers for my decorative pillows in my rec room, and I saw this design. Actually, somebody enabled me to buy this design. I can't remember who it was, but that always happens. And it's a design by Juju, and it's an In the Hoop project. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I want to make another one in a slightly different colorway because I have another cushion on the couch. And I'm not one of those kind of people that has to have matchy on my couch. I think, same pattern but slightly different colors will look kind of nice. And yeah, so I'll say more probably about that tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. I just want to let you see it right now. And do I have another picture here to show you? I don't think I do at this point in time. So let's come back here to me. Okay, so it takes me to YouTube channel of the week. And of course, you know that I'm into 3D printing. In fact, I've got some things to talk about 3D printing, some new purchases later in today's show. But, one of the problems we have as 3D printers is we have a lot of waste in terms of the end of the roll of filament, because you may have a couple of feet or so of filament left, but that won't be enough to do any single project. And people have tried to conquer this problem by doing various things like splicing with a lighter, trying to melt ends of filament together, and that just leads to disaster because, well, your filament's going through a little tube, and that tube is only so big. And when you start trying to melt down filament and joining ends together, you get a lump, and well, all kinds of things happen when you get clogs in your machine. But there are some products out there for splicing. I have never tried them, but there's a new one coming out that seems promising. So I'm going to show you what this is all about. It is the YouTube video of the week. This week's video clip is for those of you that have 3D printers or are thinking about buying one. One of the things about 3D printers is there is a certain amount of waste, and usually that waste, or one of the products of the waste, is from not being able to use a complete roll of filament to its end. And I have a lot of these kind of filaments laying around where there's just maybe only a foot or a couple of feet of filament left, not enough to make anything. And it could be a real pain in the butt to try and time it so that you can feed that filament into your printer when it starts to run out with the next filament. But this video I found talks about different methods you can do right now with the 3D printer that you have, and some innovative devices that are coming on the market very soon. And as you can see in this picture, they're showing one of those devices, and that's for splicing bits and pieces of filament together so that it will run through your printer. This is a really informative video about different methods you can use and how you can avoid a lot of the waste. Now, I haven't tried the methods that they are talking about in this video, but I am going to give them a try, and I'm definitely interested in this splicer when it comes on the market. It sounds like it might work very well. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out this video on YouTube. So you'll find a link for that video if you're interested in that kind of thing in the show notes below. You will find a link for Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, which always happens on Wednesdays at starting at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. And it's a come and go and do whatever you like kind of a thing. And we always have a great group there. So if you've never been with us before and you're a little nervous about it, you don't need to be. You don't need to be. Everybody's very supportive and very, very friendly. You'll find links to all my friends' channels as well, so check them out if you haven't already. And there's links to all my past week's videos as well. So that takes me right over here to, and this is going to look like a little funny picture. It's going to look like it was taken with an infrared camera or that we have snow, but neither is true. This is looking outside my front door, but I took this picture at approximately 6:30 this morning. So the sun is just coming up. Yes, the days are getting shorter. Another sign that summer's pretty much done. Moving into the fall. I mean, officially summer isn't done until the 21st of September, but so we got about 3 more weeks of it. But you know, once the kids go back to school and everything, well, summer's over. And it's been an interesting summer, hasn't it, in terms of temperature, very hot in places. We've had hurricanes, we've had floods, we've had forest fires. Yeah, Armageddon, you know, really, that's what it's been like. But you know, in another couple of months, at least for us here in the northern part of North America, we'll be bitching about the cold because we're never happy. But before the cold comes, I hope, or at least before the snow comes, at least we'll see fall foliage. You know, it's always a very beautiful time of the year when the trees change. It's just a shame that once they change, then suddenly, you know, one morning they're on the tree, you get up the next morning, they're on the ground. And that has its own problems, doesn't it? Like in cleanup. But anyways, I'm not sure what the temperature is going to be like today. According to my watch, it is right now 11 degrees C. It says it feels like 7 though. And I did notice when I was taking out the garbage that it was on the chilly side this morning. Another sign that summer's over. And the high is only going to be 20 degrees, which is still very pleasant, but cooler than what we're used to. And I'm not sure if we're going to have any precipitation or not. Let's see, what does it say? Precipitation. 0 chance today, 0 tomorrow, 0 Wednesday, 0 Thursday, 45% chance on Friday, 75% chance on the weekend. Yeah, it always rains on the weekend, doesn't it? And then Sunday's clear again, and seems to be clear right through till next Wednesday. So we'll see how that turns out. But yep, summer is done, and that's sad. Unless, of course, you love the winter, then you're probably very happy about this. Okay, so what else are people happy about right now? Well, parents are happy because the kids are going back. Now, I know in some jurisdictions, the kids have already gone back. But here in my area, most schools go back in on the day after Labor Day. So, yeah, they're all happy about that. And we saw them all out at Dollarama and in the grocery store yesterday getting back to school supplies and stuff for kids' lunches and all that good stuff. It was a bit chaotic, actually. We actually had to stand in a lineup at the Dollarama. Yeah, everybody's getting the cheap school supplies. Of course, the teachers, well, let's talk about teachers. I talked a lot about the teachers yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live, and And I called them the unsung heroes because they really are the unsung heroes of the world. Um, One thing I'm still a little bitter at is the big to do that was put out there during COVID about the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, and everything like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree. They should be honored. They worked way beyond what should be expected of them. And, if we didn't have them, well, things would have been even worse than they were, and they were pretty bad. But people seem to forget, and they do this all the time, they forget about teachers. Teachers have a very important job. They are educating the future. Okay, yeah, that's kind of like a slogan that you've heard many times before, but it is true. Parents aren't teaching their kids unless they're homeschooling, and don't get me started on homeschooling. Okay, as a ex-teacher, as a retired teacher, ex doesn't sound so good. As a retired teacher, well, I have my reservations about homeschooling. However, that's not what this is about today. Today it's about, showing your appreciation to teachers. And why should you show your appreciation to teachers? Okay, they're stuck with your kids all day, 5 days a week. Okay, now you just came off of summer break. You were stuck with your kids all day long too. You can't tell me that every one of those moments with your children was absolutely bliss, that you really had a great time and you were sad to see them go back to school. Oh no, we all know the reality. Okay? Kids are demanding, kids are a huge responsibility, and kids need to be kept entertained. And if you're working, both parents are working, which most are, there's all kinds of other complications like who's going to look after the kids and all that kind of stuff. What are the kids doing when we're not home? Kind of a thing. So, yeah, it's a relief, I am sure, to send the little munchkins back to school. However, they become the teacher's problem. And people who become teachers do it because they like kids, usually. Don't look at me as an example, all right? No, I like kids. Served hot. With little potatoes and carrots all around. No, I joke. Maybe not. Anyways, they're stuck with your little buggers for 5 days a week in there. They're trying to, well, you've heard the expression herding cats. It's very much like that when you're a teacher, trying to get the kids to pay attention, get the kids to do their schoolwork, get the kids to learn, that kind of thing. And, some kids take to it quite readily. They love school. But the majority of kids would rather be doing something else, especially this time of the year when they're looking out the window in the school if the weather's really nice still. And they're really wishing they were out there and hanging out with their friends rather than in this classroom learning about Shakespeare, in my case, because I was an English teacher or whatever. And we as teachers get that. And so we spend a great deal of our time and thought processes trying to think of ways of making whatever we're going to be teaching interesting and entertaining for the kids. Because if the kids are entertained, then they do learn. They do learn. But there's a fine line between how much entertainment, how much education. I was told in Teachers College that teachers are 75% entertainer, 25% educator. And really what that is saying is you got to make things interesting for these kids. Or, and parents know this, I'm bored. And when kids are bored, what do kids do? They get into mischief. Well, that's one of the things that teachers have to use a lot of energy on. Another thing is supplies. If you're going to try to make something creative and entertaining for kids, you need what we used to call consumables. You need things like pencil crayons, paper, pens, markers, manipulatives, as they call it now, construction paper, you name it. You need all this stuff. And you want to know something? There isn't a big magic supply room in a school where you just walk in and take out armloads of whatever you need. No. Usually there isn't enough things for everybody in the school to use what they'd really like to use for their programs. So what do teachers do? They spend a lot of their own money supplying these materials for their classroom. Now you're going to say, well, that's not right. You're right, it's not right. But here in Ontario, our government doesn't give us any money for this. Oh, they pretend they do. They have what they call a formula for the budget, which always comes short, always, and doesn't just include things that the kids need to be educated with, but includes teacher salaries, administrative salaries, building upkeep, custodial staff, secretarial staff, all kinds of other things as well, all come out of that budget. And it's the job of the principal in the school to allocate it. And there is never enough. I used to have to go every year in to see my principal and negotiate my next year's budget. And part of my budget was for supplies. But nevertheless, all of us as teachers use our own money. We do not get compensation. It's not like we can hand in a receipt to the office and they reimburse us for stuff. We spend our own money on a lot of the supplies we use in our classroom. And a lot of the public does not realize that. They bitch about their tax dollars going into education and how much goes into it. Yes, it is quite a lot of money, but it's still never enough. So that's another thing teachers have to worry about. Another thing teachers have to worry about are new regulations. It seems like these governments, at least here in Ontario, come up with new regulations just at the end of the previous school year. Don't make a big announcement about them until just before everybody's going back into school. And then you're expected on day one to implement this stuff. A lot of times it has to do with curriculum, which means that you need some training in order to learn how to implement it into your classroom practices. And the governments don't provide any professional development or training for this until way after the fact. Again, teachers are left to their own devices to figure out how they're going to meet the requirements of the government with no guidance. And God help you if you don't do it or you do it wrong. So, yeah. And then there's meetings, all kinds of meetings that teachers go to. See, a lot of people think, and I met a few people like this who decided they later in life they would go to teachers college, and they just thought they would walk into a classroom, stand in front of a group of wide-eyed and well-behaved children, and spew forth all the knowledge from their head towards them. And the kids would be like little sponges and absorb every word of wisdom that came from them. Don't work that way. No. I'll never forget when I was an associate teacher. What that is, or I don't even know if they call it that anymore, but it meant basically I would get young teachers who were doing their practicum, their practice teaching, from Teachers College, and they'd be with me for a couple of weeks to observe me, and then eventually I'd ease them into teaching the class themselves, and I'd help them, show them how to develop curriculum and all these kind of things with it. I had one guy, he had a nice suit, he had a nice leather briefcase. Yeah, really. And the only thing he had in his briefcase was a sandwich. So it came time for him to go solo with one of my classes. And I said to him the day he came in to do this, I said, okay, do you want to sit down for a few minutes? We'll go over your lesson plan. Now, you see, basically, part of their requirements were to show their associate teacher their lesson plans so that the associate teacher could help them with it. You might want to take this part and you might want to do it this time instead of then, or you might want to add this to it, or you might want to give them some guidance. That was the whole idea. So they would learn. So the guy comes in, sits down, opened up his briefcase, pulled out a sandwich. I said, where's your lesson plan? Yeah, I got a little waylaid by the baseball game on TV last night. So yeah, but it's not a problem. I know what I want to do. Okay, at that point, because this was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, at this point, I said, okay, good. Well, I'm glad you're confident. They're all yours. And the thing was, it was one of my worst classes. And what I meant by that was there were some real characters in that class that, you had to be on top of, or all hell would break loose. And so, in he went. I came by and peeked in the window of the classroom to see how things were going. Oh my God. It took me all my time not to walk into that room and take control because there was no control in that room. But I didn't. It's part of the learning experience. Well, it went from bad to worse. So after the class was over, you usually do a debriefing with them. And I sat down and said, so, how do you think it went? Yeah, it was really good. Okay, if your lesson plan was designed that it said Johnny should be poking Sally with a very big ruler in the middle of her back, and if you think that when kids are throwing paper balls, erasers, and anything else they get their hands on across the room at each other, that they're sitting on top of their desks and they're talking to each other while you're writing something on the board, you think that's good? All right. Good for you. I did not write him a good report. I hope he was never allowed into a classroom because he didn't learn. He didn't work at it, and he was one of those ones who thought you just walk in and spew forth. And a lot of people out there think that's how it works. It doesn't. For every hour that a teacher works with the kids in a classroom, there are at least 2 hours of preparation time for that class. And teachers, especially if you're at the high school level, do not teach one class a day. If it's a semester system, they're usually teaching anywhere from 3 to 4 75-minute classes a day. If they're in elementary school, they're probably teaching all of the subjects. Might not have to teach music or art or French, but they're teaching all the subjects. That's even harder. At least I only had to focus on one subject, English. Middle school teachers have to focus on pretty much everything. So, yeah, that's a lot of work. And when does that work get done? You can't do it while you're teaching. And yeah, and people complain that, well, school goes in at 9 o'clock, it's done at 3. Or whatever hour things are like that. I mean, I know some schools go in really early and get out really early, and vice versa. There's a whole lot of scheduling issues around that. But essentially, teachers are taking their work home and they're working on it. Teachers do not get paid overtime. Oh, that's the other thing. Oh, but teachers are paid a lot of money. No, they're not. No, they are not. Think about this. Think about this. As a teacher, I saw approximately 90 to 100 kids every day. I taught 3 periods out of 4 periods in a day. They were 75 minutes long each. Okay? I am managing 100 individuals, plus I have meetings to attend to. I have paperwork to do. I have lesson plans to prep. I have things I have to evaluate and mark. I have to do a certain amount of professional development to keep up on what the government wants me to do, and I have to answer to my administration. No, I was not paid for that. Basically, a CEO of a small company has less employees and less responsibilities than the average classroom teacher, and yet they were probably making 6-digit salaries. I was not. Yeah. And that's just not me. That's every teacher out there as well. So, yeah, it is a really hard job. Now you're saying, then why do it? Well, we're suckers for pain. No. Unlike some of the professions, and yes, teaching is a profession, we honestly go into teaching, and anybody who stays in teaching does it because they like kids. And for me, I liked working with older kids. That's why I was high school. I liked being creative. It was a great creative outlet for me. I liked the fact that every day was different. there were all kinds of things I didn't like, but essentially those things that I did like kept me in the profession. It kept me in a profession where I was abused by kids, by parents, by administrators, by government people. I worked long hours. I got paid crap, but it was a calling. And teaching is a calling. Um, you're either born a teacher or you're not. The good teachers are born. The very few bad teachers don't usually last in the profession. Now, we've all got horror stories, don't we? Because we've all been through the school system, so we're all experts. No, we're not. You were just on one end of the school, the education spectrum. If you were just a student, if you weren't a teacher, it's a totally different ball game when you see it through eyes of a teacher. It is. So, as my teaching friends that aren't as fortunate as I have been to be retired now, 12 years, wow. I wish you the best of luck. I hope your year is great. I hope you don't have to have too many hours with a psychiatrist. I hope you don't have to buy too many bottles of aspirin. And I hope you don't strangle a child. I hope you will still be able to rekindle as you go into the first day of school that energy, the joy of why you entered this profession in the first place. And I wish you well. And you know, the rest of you out there that may have children or grandchildren in the school system, it doesn't hurt you to pass on a kind word or note or little email message to your child's teacher just to say thank you. That will go a long way and will really make a teacher's day. It will. So think about that. Okay. Off the soapbox. Let's go to the grow lights and everything. Well, I don't really have anything to show you because everything's dying. Yeah, it's that time of the year, right? We've pretty much harvested most of our tomatoes, most of our peppers and things like that. But one thing I decided to try, we grew jalapenos this year, and we had quite a few of them. So I looked up how to pickle jalapenos, and here's what I did. Let me get it up here on the screen. There we go. There's my jar of pickled jalapenos. So easy to do, and it's delicious. They are delicious. There's jalapenos in there. There's sliced carrots. There's some red and green pepper as well, and some garlic. It's in a brine, and yeah, we've been eating it. So much so I went out and I made 2 more jars. That's why we're at the Dollarama. I had to get some jars. And easy to do. And if you've never pickled before, well, just go on the internet. This was easy. I mean, it's just vinegar and sugar that you boil. And you throw in your vegetables and boil them for a couple of minutes. Let it sit for about 10 minutes off the burner. And then you scoop your stuff into your jar, pour the brine over top of it, and seal it. And let it sit at room temperature and cools right down, and throw it in your fridge. Now, I think I can actually throw the other 2 jars probably in the freezer as well. Hopefully they won't break the jars. Or I'll have jalapeno sickles. But anyways, it's quite good. I was very proud of myself. I've never really pickled before. So, yeah. And it looks pretty, too. Yeah. So, in fact, the second batch I made, I cut the carrots up a little smaller, and I chopped up the jalapenos, too. So things are a little bit... Because we've been eating it like you'd eat it like antipasto or something like that. You know, you take a little spoonful and put on a cracker, that kind of thing. It's really great with spray cheese. Yeah. Delicious. So, and I think you use it as a, accompaniment to some meat or whatever you're eating as well. So I took the other 2 jars that I made and I made sure I cut things up a little bit finer. So we'll see how that works out. But anyways, I'm very proud of myself. Yeah. Whole summer of growing, and this is what I have to show for it. Well, no, that's not true. Okay. So, new products. Well, speaking of food, Walter, of course, has been diagnosed as pre-diabetic. diabetes too. And of course, he's been going right off the deep end, with everything that we're eating these days. We are eating healthier. We weren't eating that unhealthy before, but we're really, really being conscious of things like carbohydrates and sugars and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's really difficult to figure out what you're going to cook. So I went online and I did a search for what the best diabetic cookbooks were. And I found several different sites that listed ones and two cookbooks that came up very high on the charts. I decided to check out Amazon. They had them and I bought them. This is the first one, Diabetes Cookbook and Meal Plan for the newly diagnosed. Okay, this one sounded like it had, a plan in it. It talked about diabetes too, and it had recipes. Well, I did find the first 4 chapters of the book extremely informative. They talked all about diabetes too and controlling it with food and all kinds of things that I did not know about it. So that was very much worth the price I paid for this. The recipes that are in it, there's not that many, and they don't sound that thrilling, really, out of it all. And to be honest, they aren't anything that I didn't know already about, cutting back on the sugars, using sugar substitutes, watching the carbohydrates in it, putting, dividing up your plate so that you have half the plate is your protein, quarter of the plate is like your veggies, the other quarter is carbohydrates, something like that. Oops, thumbs up. So yeah, this book though was also on the list. I thought it was going to be a big heavy book because it says, it's got like 2,000 days recipes. Yeah, that's a little bit of a misnomer there. There aren't 2,000 recipes in this book. This book is a thin little paperback. However, it does have a lot of recipes, and it's got a 60-day meal plan you can follow, like as if we were going to do that. But there are some interesting things in it. But there's some things in it that are just like, okay, stupid. Like, there's a recipe for slicing an avocado. That's it. How to slice an avocado. Okay. Yeah. But anyways, I don't really call that a recipe. At the least or at the most, I'd call it, a technique. I don't know. You get a knife, you get an avocado, you slice. Wow. Okay. Easy. It's not brain surgery. But anyways, they're a help, they're a guide. They give me ideas. They give us ideas to make things a little bit more interesting in what we're eating because, I like salad, but we've eaten a lot of salads this summer. And partially due to the fact that we were growing lettuce, and other things, which is nice. But also because of this diagnosis of being a pre-diabetic for Walter. So yeah. But anyways, we see what it is. We've both lost a little weight. I haven't lost as much as I should, but it might be the ice cream part. Oh yeah, you're going to go, wait, you're diabetic and you're having ice cream? Well, I'm not the one. Walter has a little ice cream. He buys the no added sugar ice cream, which the brand that he gets is a Canadian brand, Chapman. We like Chapman's ice cream. It's very, very tasty. It's also double the price, and it comes in a smaller container than the regular stuff. But I like ice cream as well. Well, it's almost like every night we have a little bowl of ice cream. Maybe we need to cut that back a little bit. We usually have it with some fruit, too, kind of a thing as well. And a little shot of whipped cream and sprinkles. That's fine. Yeah, might need to cut back on that a little bit. But we're trying. I'm trying to. I'm not pre-diabetic, at least as far as I know. But I'm trying to support Walter. Yeah, with this, it's easier to stay on a diet if there's more than one of you doing it at the time. And he says, well, if you want that, you have it. No, I'm not going to have something that he can't have. Throw that in your face kind of a thing. Nope, nope. And it is healthier eating, and, I definitely are getting some of the benefits from that. Okay, so got a new printer, 3D printer. Yeah, I know, you're not surprised. Well, basically, I have 6 now, but I am retiring one. My oldest printer, I'm sick and tired of trying to get it to work properly. I spend more time adjusting it to print than I do printing. And I really love the latest models that I bought from Creality. The Creality Ender 3 version 3 KEs. Love those printers. I've talked about them before. So I bought another one the other day to replace the older one, and it's up and running. So I have 5 printers now, but another one of my older printers. Today is the day I'm going to make a decision whether I'm going to retire it and buy another one to replace it as well. Because I don't know, I've been fooling around with it for the last day and a half trying to get it to print the way it's supposed to print, and I'm not having luck, and I don't know why. It's a mystery. So I have one more thing I can try today, and if that doesn't do it, then I think I'm going to buy another printer to replace it. Eventually, I would like to have all my old printers replaced by the KEs. And then you're going to say, well, why do you need 5 printers in the first place? It's not a need. It's a want. Because I get a thrill watching 5 printers printing all at the same time. Call me weird, and I know you do. But, it's a hobby. I love it. So anyways, I thought I'd show you what I bought and everything, and I made a little video that I'm going to insert right here for you. As you can see, I got a new printer. It's another one of the Creality Ender 3 version 3 KE models, which I already have 2 of, and I quite love them quite thoroughly. I'm replacing the one that's the oldest of all the printers. It's just a pain to try and level it to get a good print. So I broke down and decided to buy this machine, which was actually surprisingly the same price as when I bought the second KE model back, what's that, 6 months ago or so? So they haven't changed in price, which is good. Right now, I have it all assembled. It took only about 15, 20 minutes to assemble it all and get it up and running, and it's now doing the test benchy, which is a little boat, as you can see here in the picture. And it says it'll take about 16 minutes to do that because these are very fast printers. But I love these printers, and I think they would be a great printer for a beginner because they're easy to assemble, and you don't have to level the bed. It levels itself, and that is one of the biggest problems with the older models of printers, at least the Creality line. So I thought it was time. So now I have 6 3D printers, but not really. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other one. It still works, but it's a pain. So I think I don't know. I don't even think I could donate it anywhere because I took a look, and, they don't want old stuff in schools or in libraries because basically it'd be more problems for them to have to keep them, maintain them, and to fix them when things went awry. But anyways, this one is here. I'm loving it. And yeah, I don't think I'm buying any more for a while. But if I do, I will probably buy 2 more KEs eventually to replace this old model and this old model. Yeah, boys and their toys. And we bought something else this week from Canadian Tire, of course, because it was on sale. We bought a new Robo, the little robotic vacuuming system. Now we have one. We've had one for a long time. It is starting to make weird noises, which I think is a sign that eventually it's just going to stop and not work anymore. And it doesn't owe us anything. It has worked faithfully for quite a few years now, like for probably 10. Yeah. And it still works. But I kind of thought we have some hardwood floor in the house, and I kind of thought I'd like one of those ones that, it mops and vacuums and all of that, and they have this, it goes in and it changes its pads and it cleans its own pads, and, it dumps the stuff out of it into another canister that you eventually have to dump, and all this kind of stuff. But they're like $1,000, up there in price, give or take a couple of hundred. And we don't have that much hardwood, you know. I mean, it's very easy to maintain our floors in terms of the hardwood because I just get out my Swiffer and that works. So I don't know. Well, they had this one. It's a Robo. It was on for $249 or $279 at Canadian Tire. It's a fairly basic model. You know, you can get ones with a lot of buzzers and bells on them now. You know, ones that map out the rooms and you can tell it, you know, go to the bedroom and clean that now. It's all done from your phone. Well, yeah, I kind of like that because it's technology and you know me and technology, right? But I also didn't really want to spend $600 or $700 on one of these things. So this one does what we want it to do, basically does everything that the old one did. It's a little better, a little more improved in its cleaning ability. And it does have an app. So I can, you know, I can read how much of a charge is left on it. I could sit here right now, turn it on and tell it to go. It doesn't really map out rooms, this one on this particular model. Although on the app, it shows that it sort of does, but I think that's for other models. I think the app is for a variety of models. But anyways, it seems to do a good job. The old one, we still have it. We're going to use it. We moved it down here, downstairs. And it will be the downstairs robo. And we'll have an upstairs robo. Yeah, one thing robos don't do is climb stairs well, at all. So yeah, that's the other new toy we bought this week. And I did spend, and you'll hear about this on Idiot Quilter, so I'm not going to go into it in detail here. And I have nothing to show yet because it hasn't arrived, but I bought a whole lot of 108-inch wide backing fabric because it was a really great sale. But I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Okay, so that takes me to, can I print this effing thing? Well, one of the things that's great with 3D printing is for creating organizers. And I've created quite a few organizers. I've created desktop organizers, drawer organizers, bathroom organizers, and I've also created a lot of things for keeping my sewing area organized as well. So I've created a little video to show you what I'm talking about. So today on the 3D corner here, I thought I'd show you how I use my 3D printer for organizing some of my sewing tools. I love little containers and things like that that hold pieces and bits while I'm working on my cutting table because I have a tendency to be very cluttered and this keeps me very organized. So I thought I'd point out a few things that are in this picture that I have created. If you look above, just underneath the windowsill, you'll see some triangular and square rulers. Those are ruler racks, something that's very common for people in sewing and quilting. You can buy these in various shapes and sizes, made out of various materials like wood, like the one below that that has some of the bigger rulers. That one's a commercially purchased ruler rack that I bought when I first got into quilting. That basically holds and organizes all your rulers because we use a lot of rulers in quilting. But I 3D printed some smaller ones to hold some of my smaller rulers, and you can see them being utilized in this picture above. Now below on the gray pressing mat, you'll see in the background a little holder that I created that sits on my actual cutting table and has a couple of the rulers I use the most frequently held there, along with some sticky notes and a pad and my rotary cutter. And that's just off to the side, right on my cutting mat. Makes these things very handy, keeps them from getting lost amongst all the fabric on my cutting table, and they're right within reach. Right next to that, there are two things in the background, two buckets. You've seen these before that I've made. They are probably one of the most useful items I've ever created on my 3D printer when it comes to organizing my sewing materials. They're little garbage cans. Now the one that doesn't have the dragons on it is one that sits on my cutting surface, cutting area, and for the little bits and pieces of scraps I get, I just toss them in there. It makes it very convenient, doesn't take up a lot of space, and is very functional. And beside that is the one that I kind of decorated with some of my articulated dragons just for fun. And right now it sits off as a more of a decorative item, holding some of my right now Halloween fabrics I rolled up in there. And my thought is that every now and then I'll probably take some colorful fabrics that I may have bought in a fat quarter bundle or whatever and swap it out. It's just for decoration more than anything. But yeah, that's kind of fun. And I explained about combining prints, even if you don't have an editing tool for that, that, you can make things that are relatively unique. And I think my dragon bucket is somewhat unique. In the foreground, in front of the empty purple scrap bucket, you will see a little tray that I made to hold 2.5-inch squares of fabric. Now this sits very conveniently under my extended table attached to my sewing machine, and you often need these kind of pieces of fabric for something we call leaders, which is a little piece of scrap fabric you put under your needle when you're going to sew something that might, like a corner piece or a point piece that might get sucked down into your foot plate. So they sit there, and it's just a way to keep these little scraps organized. The two little containers, the blue and the tealy green container in front of that holder, are weights, pattern weights. And basically they're little jars that I printed on the printer, on the 3D printer. I filled them with pennies. In Canada, the penny has been discontinued for quite a few years now, but of course I had a pile of pennies because I was saving my pennies, rolling them up to take them to the bank, which I could still do. But they make great little, they make things heavy. And sometimes you need pattern weights to hold down a pattern that, that you're working on, that the pages keep flipping through or whatever. Or you need to hold down your fabric a bit. So these sit over on my cutting table, a little bit underneath my sewing extended table because it's on in the same area. And yeah, they're there and they work. Pattern weights, by the way, can be very, very expensive. Ask Walter about that because he bought some commercially made ones to hold down his patterns, and they were pricey. Of course, pin cushions. You always need a pin cushion, and these are a couple of ones that I printed on the 3D printer, and then I stuffed them with little sacks filled with polyfilla, and hot glued them into the interior of the print, and they serve as pin holders. And I've made a lot of different styles of these. I've made gnome ones, I've made this owl one, I've made a whole bunch of other ones, and I've given them away to a lot of people as well. They're just a cute little gift as well for somebody who's a sewer in your, in your sphere of friends. Next to those is a little cup. Now you're going to see a theme here, aren't you? That thimble trash can that I made, I've also reduced the size of it in the Splicer program for my 3D printers for the pin cushion, and I changed its dimensions to create this little cup that sits next to my sewing machine for my wonder clips. I use a lot of clips when I'm sewing, and I need some place to put them so they're not bouncing all over the room, and it serves that purpose. So this really illustrates too how one print from a 3D printer with a little bit of imagination and a little bit of altering the dimensions of it can serve multiple purposes. This is just a few of the things that I have made on my 3D printer that I use with my sewing room. But it's great because you can customize these different items to suit your purposes. And sometimes you can't find just the right little container or whatever you're looking for. And sometimes these very simple items, if you buy them in a quilt store or another place, can be very expensive. So yeah, another functional use of your 3D printer. And that takes me to a blast from the past, an old video clip back in the days when I was a paper crafter. And one of the things that I fell in love with in terms of paper crafting was the whole steampunk movement. Steampunk is, besides people dressing up in funny clothes, it's like the Victorian age, never ended and steam became the principal device for creating new technologies. There's a whole, there's a lot of people that follow the steampunk movement, and there's books, and there's costumes, and there's fairs, and all kinds of events and things, and people really get into it. And I was into it for a while when it came to paper crafting as well. So this particular video clip shows a little themed album that I made in the terms of, or I made it under the theme of steampunk.
Hi everybody, it's Steven, and I wanted to show you my latest album that I've been working on. This is made out of a series of file folders. Now, you actually take the file folders, and you can see here I made a prototype. If you go to the Paper Addiction on YouTube, you'll find the instructions for this. A lady by the name of Michelle, who puts up a lot of really great videos. She has this all laid out, but she used file folders that I guess are more readily available. I think she's in Australia, I'm not really sure, but her file folders all came with a straight edge on them. You know, our file folders in North America, or at least the ones I get my hands on, all have the standard little tab on them. You know what I'm talking about. So I had to alter her design in order to accommodate for cutting those kind of file folders with the tab already on them. Now, since then, I think she has another tutorial on there that's meant to go along with the file folders that do have a tab. So you can look her up. That's the Paper Addiction, all one word. Just look for it on YouTube. So this is just my plan so I can do this again. But basically, it's one file folder. It's cut down to a strip. It's folded in this manner, and it creates the pages in the album. So this is my album. Now, I decided I really like what they call the steampunk look, which is sort of a whimsical Victorian style meets heavy metal kind of gears and things like that. You can look it up. You can find lots of images for steampunk kind of things if you just do a search on Google under steampunk and look for the images. And I think they're really kind of neat. And it also allows you to use a lot of metal pieces, like the Tim Holtz metal pieces. Like on here, I've got some of Tim Holtz's gears and some of his numbers. And you can distress them and give it a whole grunge look. So this is, I think I made this out of 3 file folders. And I basically grunged it up. I just put it on off-white cardstock. Oh, sorry, I did not put it on off-white cardstock. The file folders were off-white. And I just took a black ink pad, again, a distress ink pad from Tim Holtz, and just rubbed the black ink all around the edges before I laid down my background papers. I found a whole pack at Michael's of themed pattern paper, which was actually called Steampunk Botanicals. And so that's the pad that I used for this. So this is the cover, some butterflies here and some numbers and a little clock and some gears, as I pointed out. You open it up, and all of the cards that are in here are all images that I printed off of the internet from Google. And I just made little pockets out of them, cut them in half. I printed these out, I inked them, and then my little cards go inside. And on the back, you could put a picture, you could put some journaling, whatever you want. But I think the images are really quite cool. And when you make this album, it does create a pocket at the top. And so I created a tag. I used some distress glitter for this, which is kind of neat because it's different from the usual kind of glitter. When you emboss it, you do it the same way. You sprinkle it on the clear embossing stamp, and then you heat it. And unlike regular embossing powder, you can see it melt. This doesn't really melt. It just kind of gets a little duller in color. And that's how you know that it's sticking. And then when you're finished doing that, you let it cool right down, and then you rub your finger across it. And it actually has a texture somewhat like sandpaper. But there's these little bits that are embedded into this stress glitter that are meant to rub off, to give like partial, I don't know if you can see that or not, but gives you sort of edges that aren't completely covered in the glitter and gives it that distressed look. And I think that's kind of neat. So I created this card using a collage rubber stamp, put the distress glitter on it, and and it just fits in the pocket. Now you'll notice on the back I just did some simple inking with walnut ink, distress ink, and again, could be for journals or for pictures, and they just slip in here. Now, if you've seen some of my other albums, and lots of people do this, they will put it in upside down. They will attach a ribbon to the top of it and let the ribbons hang out from the outside of the album, which I think is a really neat effect. But in this particular one, I didn't want to add any ribbons to it. I wanted to give it a very grungy look. So you'll notice no ribbons on the tags, but the tags do pop up over the top almost like tabs. So you carry on this next page, same idea. You put little pockets down the bottom, put the little cards in, places to journal and whatnot. And then this design also creates a side pocket. And here I made two little tags using the same method I just mentioned. This one is a little darker, as you can see, than the other. And they just slip in there. Now I'm putting them in this way. You could do both sides, but I wanted one side to be left plain so that you could put a picture of journaling in it. But I put them this way because when you close the album, then you get to see the top. So very similar here. Same idea all the way through it and to the end. And lots of places to write things. So that didn't take very long to make, really. I didn't really think that much about it. It's got a really well-worn look to it. And I just thought it was kind of neat. And gave me a chance to try out this steampunk theme. So, hope you like. Talk to you soon.
So events in the past week, well, the big one was Pop-Up Sew Day on Saturday. We had, I think, at the height of it, about 40 people. It was a lot of fun. I think everybody got a lot of things done. We had some newbies at it as well. Always welcome, the newbies. And I did get some emails from those newbies saying that they really enjoyed the day. They had been a little apprehensive about coming, you know, new people, the whole bit. But they said they thoroughly enjoyed themselves and want to attend the next one. And when is the next one? Right now, tentatively, it is scheduled for September the 14th. There will be an announcement about it and the links for it in another week's time. Actually, probably next week, because it'll be a week from this coming Saturday. And let's see, that was about it for the week. And what's coming up? Well, my old high school is having its 70th reunion. Now, I'm not that old before you start thinking that way. I went to high school in the 70s, but the school itself has been around for 70 years. So there's this big reunion at a local hall. It's not even at the school. In fact, there's nothing about the school, which is strange, but yeah. So I'm going, Walter and I are going. We bought tickets for it back a couple of months ago. And I'm not expecting a whole hell of a lot out of this. In fact, I sucked my sister into going with me. She's a graduate from the same high school. Her and her husband going. Because, to be honest, I never stayed in contact with the people I went to high school with. I was an outsider. I was a nerd. And I was never any part of any clique, any group, that kind of thing. I wasn't one of the cool kids in there. And to be quite honest, my high school experience, not absolutely horrible, but not really thrilling either. You know, like, university was a lot better. So, you know, I could care less whether I see these old people, because they will be old. Not me. I'm still just look the same as I did in high school. God, I hope not. I was creepy looking in high school. Yeah, well, you're saying, but you're still creepy looking, so maybe things don't change. But, yeah. So I have a feeling this thing's going to be a bust. They got a DJ. Well, my dancing days are over, for that matter. And they've got some food company coming in that specializes and is only selling gourmet grilled cheese. Now, I like grilled cheese, but yeah, Walter can't eat them. They're not on the diet. Okay. And of course a cash bar as well. So there hasn't been a heck of a lot written up about this reunion. There's a Facebook page, and I don't think ticket sales went as well as they thought. Well, it is the 70th, so you know a lot of the people are dead. That might be why. But yeah, because they're offering tickets at the door. Now they're charging $5 more per ticket if you get it at the door, but you also have to reserve your ticket online beforehand. And then when you get there, you pick up the ticket. So I don't know what that says to me. Does that mean ticket sales weren't going as well as they thought? The hall that they've put it in is a huge hall. Also expensive to rent because I've been involved in things where, you know, that hall has been rented before. So I know that. Um, it's a nice hall. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect. So I wrote my sister this morning and said to her, okay, they open the doors at 7 and I guess things get underway at around 7:30. We only live 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from the hall. So I said to my sister, come here. We'll take one car. The four of us will go over in one car and we may be leaving after half an hour. I don't know. We'll see how that works. Now, my sister probably will know more people or that will be there because she was very social when she was in high school. Okay. She was sort of in a group kind of a thing, whereas I was not. So, you know, for her, this might be, you know, a lot of fun. Anyways, I'm going in expecting the worst, and if it's better than the worst, then I'll be happy. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out. I am quite honestly kind of regretting buying those tickets. It was impulse. I saw it online. They were having this. I said to Walter, "Oh, let's go," and bought the tickets. And that was months ago. Now I'm thinking, why? We'll see. I'll let you know. Okay. So that's it for me this week. I hope you have a great week. I hope you're enjoying what's left of the summer, the last day. Sad, isn't it? And yeah, and as I said, if you've got grandchildren or children going back to school, doesn't hurt to pass on a kind word or note to their teacher this year. Goes a long way. Okay, have a good one. Bye for now.